If there isn't objection, I know we put this under communications because the workshop was expected to be full, but perhaps Mr. Titus would be willing to come up, and I could turn the floor over to the city manager and Mr. Titus around the county budget process, county charter. I know there was a meeting, and the council had asked Howard to come back with some direction he would recommend. So I'll turn the floor over to you two.
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, last Wednesday, Councilor Gary and myself attended a meeting that Ed Barrett, the city administrator in Lewiston, and Councilor LaChance, who was here, I don't see him now, but from Lewiston, they got virtually every community in Androscoggin County to come forward and go over what's going on with the county budget. And from that meeting came a pretty unanimous direction that each community be willing to go to the county one more time, seek some resolution, and if we can't get it, then we seek legal action against the county. Enclosed in the documentation is the county charter with an amendment to their budget process, as well as a breakdown of what it would cost per municipality across Androscoggin County for if we went with a $10,000 limit on legal fees, and it would be based on valuation across the county. Auburn's share would be about $2,500, give or take a few dollars. Next to that would also be a council resolve where each city council, board of selectmen would also endorse this resolve to give the city of Lewiston the authority to represent each community in Androscoggin County as the fiscal agent, and you know, we would allow them to enter an agreement with Brandon Isaacson, who also represents the city of Auburn. And last but not least, I believe on Wednesday, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Gary, a group is going to go to the county and give this one last chance to see if there's any kind of compromise that will take place. But as you know, Mr. Titus has served on the budget committee for the county, as well as Councilor Gary, and I want to give them an opportunity to, I guess, give you their perspective on this. And if Councilor Chance comes back in, who's kind of like the architect of this, maybe he can weigh in on this as well. So, Mr. Titus, I thank you for being here, and I want to turn the microphone over to you.
Hi, Andy Titus, 24 Rubelite Lane. As I said a couple of weeks ago when I was here, maybe I'll just recap real briefly to remind everybody. In 2012, a charter was voted on by the people. It was developed by the Charter Commission with certain aspects and certain expectations, certain changes in how county government would be run, going from 3 councilors to 7 and 14 budget committee members. And the intention was obviously to give more power and authority to the individual towns and cities served by the county when it relates to budget items. Shortly after the 2012 charter was enacted by the voters, there was some up to 40 changes made to that particular charter through a legislative action, which kind of took the power away from the budget committee. So in the end, when we did the last budget, the power was just taken away from us. What we thought we had for being able to set the final budget and also salaries and benefits for elected officials, it was deemed that we didn't have that power, and a lot of changes were made that were not to the benefit of the cities and towns from a financial standpoint. Through the budget deliberations, we asked numerous times to please, let us know what our powers are and to explain the certain clauses of the charter that related to that. And everybody, including the commissioners, were in unanimous decision that we had power over elected officials' salaries and benefits. But in the end, as it turned out, our recommendations were not accepted. So what that caused us to believe is that either the charter was changed illegally, or the budget was changed illegally, or something was going on. It was all based on an interpretation of the charter, the new revised charter as it was written. So since then, members of the budget committee have been kind of doing a lot of research and trying to understand what's going on. We found there's several different versions of the charter. The one that was actually supposedly voted on was the incorrect charter, so we're told, but we're not really sure exactly where that came into play. A lot of stuff that needs to be hashed out and researched. But we obviously didn't have the budget or the power to do that. We just needed to get the word out. Because we just felt that the people wanted to have the Budget Committee more power when it came to budget matters in the county. And that's not what happened in the end. A lot of changes now. The commissioners have, our commissioners have proposed a change in the charter that would allow no more increases in salaries and benefits for elected officials going forward, but that their current salaries and benefits would stay the same. And we feel that's unacceptable because the Budget Committee itself had made recommendations that were in the best interest of the cities and towns, and we were overridden with a much higher amount. Just to give you an idea of what that means, when we went from 3 commissioners who are administrators and running the county, we went to 7 commissioners, and we were to hire an administrative assistant for the county who would do a lot of the busy work and the day-to-day operation stuff, and the commissioners would become policymakers, similar to a council, city council. With that, of course, we as a Budget Committee felt that we didn't need not to pay our commissioners $7,000 a year plus complete benefits, times 7. We felt that because of that change, we wanted to be at $3,000 with no benefits per commissioner. But in the end, it was changed to $5,000 per commissioner, plus they do have individual health care benefits. And there's some that take it, some that are taking a payout in lieu of those benefits, but that is where it stands right now, times 7. So we really felt that that was not in the best interest. We're adamantly against it, let's put it that way. When it comes to financial matters, and there's going to be some legal, we need to have an attorney to, or somebody that to interpret what we found, what the research that we've done. We need an attorney to interpret that and find out, okay, which charter was voted on, interpret that, please. The changes, interpret that, please. The current charter, interpret that, please. And then find out if it's legal by state standards, and that kind of research that we really can't put our signature to. And then from there, we can decide whether we can take legal action or something there. We're not really sure. We may find that the charter is not legal in the state of Maine's eyes, because there is a section of the state of Maine law that says that the budget committees or finance committees are supposed to have final approval over all budgets within the county. If that's true, then the current charter is not legal. But we don't know that exactly. We need an attorney to help us do that. When it comes to finances and money, the quick math, you got around $12,000 a year for individual health care coverage times 7, $5,000 a year times 7, compared to what the Budget Committee proposed, which was $3,000 per commissioner, no benefits. Now, I know all the commissioners are not taking the benefit, but it's still an exposure. Down the road, it could be 7 times 12,000, or any increases that happen in the future, and the $5,000 a year salary. And that may have been okay if the commissioners were running the county. Oh, thank you, Mike.
No, it wasn't that either.
That may be okay if the commissioners were still running the county, day-to-day operations. I understand that at a time they were pretty busy and put in quite a lot of hours to run the county. New government structure with an administrator and other things would now put them in a position to just make policy and not have to run the county. So we feel that really our proposal is much more appropriate going forward than what stands now. And the proposal that they're putting in to change the charter would not allow them to go up anymore. It does nothing to address benefits. So we'd stay at the level we're at right now. We couldn't go up without approval from the Budget Committee, but it couldn't go down either. So, I mean, that's my outtake as far as if we're going to put some money forward on this, it's a payout for us if we can be successful in one way or the other. The other thing I was concerned about is proposing a amendment to the charter. It would take quite a long time. We probably wouldn't get that done this year. It would have to be for a next year type thing, because 44,000 signatures plus before we have to draft what we think should be an amendment. We'd like to see it go back to what the charter was originally, what the people voted for. That would be the goal. I don't know if, Michael, you can add something?
I'd be open to answering any questions from the Lewiston perspective, but I think Andy's done a good job summarizing this.
I have a question for Howard, and it's tangential to this. There's obviously a long pattern of mismanagement or power-hungry county commissioners. This council took action over 2 years ago, seeking legal remedy for a much bigger cost item in our budget, which is the 911 system, and the fact that we're subsidizing the rural 911 system to a much larger figure, in addition to us paying 50% of a system where we only use 35 to 40% of the service with LA 911. We're about to initiate litigation on a much smaller issue. What's the status of the council's request to seek remedy on the 911 issue?
Mr. Mayor, member of the council, if I do recall, you had that under the previous city manager's authority. I mean,
The resolve is still in force.
I understand, but you want me to move forward on it? I have no trouble doing that.
It's still in action. I mean, we're about to take up the Metro thing, which we actually voted on a year before on the commuter service. So I'm supportive of this work. I'm appreciative that people are rallying together. I didn't see any interest in, Lewiston didn't have interest in seeking legal remedy on the 911. They're in a different position with respect to what they fund on the LA system, and the rural towns certainly don't want to see us initiate because they've got a pretty good deal with how their system's built. But that leaves our community, while we have the same valuation as Lewiston and we have 50% less people, I think unless this council votes to withdraw that position, we had asked for it to be remedied during the last fiscal year, and I think we need to get some closure on that.
Okay. That's all I needed to hear, so thank you.
So, but thank you for, Councilor LaChance, I appreciate your work on this, and Andy as well. It's good to see communities rallying together. Hopefully we can turn that into positive energy.
And thank you. I would like to point out a minor detail. It's a major detail. If this were only Lewiston bringing this resolve or this request or this action forward, big difference. This is, what do we have, 10 of the 14 communities showed up? I mean, there is overwhelming support across the county for this, course of action, and that really is driving where this is going. If it was 1 or 2 cities, it's a whole different can of worms. So the thing to keep in mind is it is not just a Lewiston and an Auburn thing. Right. It's everybody else in the county. It's unprecedented to have a room full of 20 people from all over Androscoggin County, a government meeting with 20 people from little towns, big cities, ideologically left, ideologically right, everything, all coming together and agreeing 100%. I mean, that does speak volumes in this, and that's why it's so important. The other thing to keep in mind is this is a timely matter. That, you know, time is running out. Before we know it, we're going to have the next budget coming up, and it's my estimation, along with others, that one of the strategies of this whole issue is delay. What can we do to push this down the calendar and kick it out there a ways? So before we know it, we're already into next year's budget on the county level. At that point, we've got that to worry about. So time is of the essence to have some kind of action happen on this. And that's where we were last week at the meeting we had. That's why we came together. There was virtually no dissension. It was clear, and you know, the results were surprising and reassuring at the same time.
You won't find agreement on fee-for-service among rural and urban communities. You'll always find unanimity when it comes to being against county commissioners. I mean, it's just, it's America and apple pie.
But it is what it is, and that's what we have.
So I see the council resolve from Lewiston. I'm assuming that we'll be drafting something similar for us?
Well, the purpose of this tonight was for you to review this, and if you're okay with doing this, to suspend the rules, take up our resolve, and vote on it so we can give it to the city of Lewiston to give them the go-ahead to represent at least the city of Auburn. I know they got to go through the rest of the communities in the county, but that was the goal. Was
Yep, okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Yep, thank you. So I don't. So other than that, Andy and Belinda, I for you to, I know when we as citizens sign up and volunteer for work, that we expect meetings and time outside to prepare, but I know that you've put in a huge amount of time in this effort. So I just want to thank you for that, because I know it's a volunteer effort, and you obviously have energy around it, and I'm grateful for that, because we needed people to step up and do the work you're doing, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And like I said, like Michael said about time is of the essence. As it stands right now, if we go into another budget season, which is not that far away, maybe 2 months before we start doing that again, we'll have absolutely no power. We will be able to make suggestions and do whatever we want to through the budget deliberations, but in the end, it will mean nothing.
Right.
And what we'd like to do is be able to get something going in time, at least so that it's seen what the intention is, and maybe we've got some perceived power this time. It may be too late for us to get that power this year, but at least it'll be perceived and in the works, and maybe it'll be ready in time for us. We have to do this by December, but we start deliberating in early fall.
Is there any objection from the council? I know at the last meeting, I think there was support, there was consensus that Howard would be green-lighted to do what's necessary to represent us, so it looks like this is what Howard's recommending we would take on for action, so, great.
And one thing I would request, too, in the discussion, that I see that a steering committee is proposed, and I know that probably the resolve will be allowing a certain amount of expenditure to get this thing going, but I would also request that maybe there's an easier way, if it has to go further, or rather get the advice that we need quickly, if something comes up. I mean, it's saying that $5,000 to $10,000 may be needed for the legal part of it, and that may be enough to do the research and get opinions and all that, but I'm not sure if we go further. There may be more. But again, when you talk about our portion of it against the potential savings down the road, years we're talking, I think it's, again, I'm always kind of fiscally responsible, as you guys know, but when I see something that's a potential payout, then I like to see if we can follow it.
Looks good. All right. Thank you, guys. Can let you get back to your Republican meeting.